What is the Eye of Ra? What is the real reason why Ausair or Osiris was murdered? What is the evil eye? Does that stuff exist, or is it just a superstitious nonsense belief? That's a Taboo fam, peace and blessings. This is Derric Moore, and in this video, what I want to talk about is basically, here's a few things that's been going on. First of all, what is the Eye of Ra? What's the real reason why Ausair or Osiris was murdered? And what is the evil eye? And how does all this relate to Kemetic spirituality? That's what I wanted to talk about today. Now, first of all, let me go ahead and say part of the reason why I wanted to talk about this is mainly because there were some things that happened and happened here in this past week or so. And as a result, you know, after the dust settled, it kind of made me think, okay, yeah, this would be a good subject to talk about. Mainly because I'm quite sure there's a lot of people who are interested in it. There's a lot of people who, you know, probably got some questions about this same subject. And it was regarding, like I said, regarding the evil eye. Now, if you're new to Kemetic spirituality or you're new to spirituality, anything regarding, you know, the spiritual and magical practices and so forth, I'm quite sure you've come across this. You've come across what, you know, the evil eye. You've come across talks about the evil eye and all these other kind of things. So that's part of the reason why, like I said, I want to go ahead and actually talk about this. All right. So first of all, what is the evil eye? Basically, you know, to put it in a nutshell, the evil eye is any type of curse or any curse that is, for the most part, is transmitted using eyes. All right. Now, from my understanding, this curse can be laid, like I said, it's transmitted using the eyes, but it can affect anything and everything. It can affect, you know, according to history, it can affect individuals' health. It can affect their finances. It can affect their, you know, their marriage to their spouse. It can affect, you know, the house that they're living in, their vehicle. It can affect, you know, I guess in the olden days, people who had farms or so, it can affect their livestock. It can affect their, you know, their crops. It even has the ability to affect, you know, an individual's child, you know, children, their family, and so forth. So this is what the evil eye is. And it is, you know, what I found out is that basically there's different names for it. Some people call it the eye, some people call it the evil eye. In Spanish, some people call it ojo or mal de ojo. So, you know, like I said, it's a curse, again, that is transmitted using eyes. Before I actually, you know, subscribe to this actual belief, and I'll kind of explain how that happened. I found out that it existed for a while, you know. When I tried to go back and try to see, okay, well, where did it come from? Who was the first culture to actually, you know, express their ideas of in this belief? Really couldn't find anything because, like I said, it's that old of a belief. I found out that, you know, I believe it was like the Kemetic people believed in it, but it was like also the Greeks, the Sumerians, I believe the Babylonians as well. So, I mean, you know, like I said, it is an old belief. Now, like I said, I used to, you know, I always tell people this, you know, and as I've mentioned to you all in previous videos, I was born and raised in a very strong Christian, devout, you know, religious household. So on top of that, when I was a kid, my mom, my dad, basically, he supported my mom in getting her degrees. And then later on, my mom went ahead and she supported my dad in getting his degrees. So as a result, my parents, you know, our household, it was always full of books. And because of them both having degrees, a lot of these beliefs, such as good luck, bad luck, evil eye and all that, we were basically encouraged not to believe it because it was looked upon as being a superstitious belief. All right. Now, there was a gray area though, because of them being religious, being very, very religious or so. There was the gray area was if there were certain things that did happen, such as maybe you came in contact with a spirit or something like that. Well, then basically, it was, for the most part, it was cast, or it was deemed evil, and basically you pray to Jesus take care of it. All right. And that's pretty much how we dealt with it. That's how we was raised to deal with it. But when I got older and actually dealt with people, people from different cultures, for the most part, I ended up for the most part adopting that belief. I ended up adopting a belief in the evil eye. All right. And like I said, this is basically due to, encountering other people, encountering cultures that actually dealt with it, and actually having some experiences that kind of made me think differently. And part of the main reason why I actually subscribe to the belief of Maldaoho, or like I said, the evil eye, is because in Kemetic thinking, we are all, for the most part, children of the Ra. Now, the Ra, remember, is the life force, or chi energy, ki energy, the Holy Spirit of, Nebuchadnezzar, which is basically the supreme being, or the Lord of all things. We are all basically children that have been created from, or beings that have been created from the life force. So everything that exists is basically connected to the life force. And one of the ways in which it was described to me, one of the best analogies that I have in regards to this whole thing of us being connected, is to imagine a invisible spider web. And in that spider web, everything that exists is all connected, to kind of give you an idea. It's like, you ever notice somehow somebody has, like, you're thinking about something, and someone coincidentally, they have that same thought, or they say something that kind of, it triggers what you were thinking about, or it basically plays in line with what you were thinking about. That's an example of that whole that connectivity, that connectiveness. It's almost as if, basically there's a gigantic, building, or a gigantic, convention hall. And inside that convention hall, there's all these different rooms. And it's like, when there's synchronicity events occurring, or a coincidence occurring, it's almost like the reason why they occur is, for the most part, because we're all in the same room. Once we go in here and we leave the room, those events don't occur, but we're still within that same convention hall. We're still within that same building, or we're still on that spider web. Okay. So for the most part, because of that, because we're all connected, we have the ability to influence others. We have the ability to influence others by, with our thoughts and with our words. All right. Now, most of us are already aware of this. Most of us are already aware of the fact that our thoughts and our speech, it manifests into reality. Okay. But like I said, because of that understanding, this is what basically made me subscribe to the belief of believing in the evil eye, because it's not too far-fetched. If you can go ahead and you can say positive things, and those positive things can change and make an individual, just become the best person they can be for that day or period, if you can go ahead and you can give those, some positive words, positive thoughts, and it encourages that individual, inspires that individual to be, like I said, to be the best they can possibly be, then what's so different from being able to do the opposite? Of course you can do the opposite. Of course, those negative thoughts, those negative speeches, even if you don't say it, the fact that you thought it affects other people as well. Okay. And like I said, it was based upon that understanding. That's how I went ahead and I subscribed to the belief in, the evil eye. Okay. And it was that understanding that made me, it kind of explained to me why you heard people in the church say, hey, pray for me, keep me in your thoughts, keep me in your prayers. A lot of times, and I can say it now, I can admit it, have no problem admitting it. Because Christians did not have any metaphysics or didn't have any metaphysical teachings, a lot of what they said, just for the most part, it seemed like it was superstitious, But like I said, or let me rephrase that, it's not maybe that they don't have metaphysics, it was the fact that they didn't share it. Okay. So it made those of us who, kind of made you have to rely on them. And that's a whole nother thing. Okay. So like I said, I digress. But the point that I'm making is that that's how I subscribed to the whole idea, the whole belief in, the evil eye. Okay. Now, how is it transmitted? All right. How is the evil eye spread? Well, it's basically jealousy. Okay. It's unconscious jealousy. All right. And when I say unconscious jealousy, what I mean by that is most people in their right mind, they don't wish harm on another. They don't wish harm on anything or evil for that matter on an individual consciously, not deliberately, not purposely. What most people do is if they're in a situation and for instance, individuals basically they're trying their best to, as the older people used to say, they trying to rub two pennies together to get $10 or so, because they're trying their best to go ahead and make things work. Most individuals, most individuals who are in that situation, if they see a person who is, they're well off, they're rich, they got some money, and they're boasting, they're bragging, they're just flaunting everything. Because they're all about their ego and everything. Most people would, unconsciously wish something that would happen to them. Okay. Because it's like, when you have things like that, when you have any kind of material possession, usually if you have that material possession, it's because, somebody else, they don't have it. There's always someone else who does not have it. So that's usually how it spreads. Like I said, it's an unconscious jealousy. Okay. Now, how to avert it? To avert it, I go back to the Kemetic story of Osar. Those of you who are new to Kemetic Spirituality, basically the Kemetic story of Ausair is the Bible to the Kemetic people, to the Kemetic tradition. It is the Bible, all right? And in the Kemetic story of Osar, all right, if we are to follow the whole thought or the whole idea, the legend basically, that it was Geb that divided the kingdom up and decided to give the older brother Ausair or Osiris part of the kingdom and give Set part of the kingdom. okay, the youngest brother, Set, give him part of the kingdom. You recall that basically, according to legend, Ausair, after seeing his people, they were warring, they're fighting with each other and everything, because basically they're uncivilized. When he sees them going through all this, it inspired him, and he's like, hey, I want to, he goes and he wants to seek, and he wants to find ways of bringing everlasting peace to them. He's searching, and he's like, hey, I want to find a way to bring peace to the land, unite the people, so forth and so on. All right. And it was because of, those of us who are, you're familiar with the story, because he went ahead and he did that, he became very popular. Became very, because as he taught the people about the Ma'at, he taught the people how to live. And I mean, when we're talking about Ma'at, we're talking about he teaches them how to live. He teaches them how, how to care for themselves. He teaches them how to, bury the dead. He basically civilizes them by teaching them about Ma'at. And it's because of this, the way the story basically plays out is like, okay, he became popular and people loved him, because on top of that, he also taught the people agriculture. And for the most part, they become prosperous and everything, and that's it. And the way most people tell the story, they make it seem like, okay, well, Set, because of his popularity, Set, for the most part, the youngest brother, became jealous of him. He became jealous of Ausair. But when you think about it a little bit more, kind of contemplate on it, and you think about the fact that, Ausair actually, he goes and he teaches these people, or he teaches his people how to be better. He improves their life, all right? And then on top of that, he goes around the world, goes to different other civilizations, or cultures basically, and spreading this truth about how to become a better individual. When you think about it from that perspective, then it kind of gives you an idea that really what happens, the reason why Set becomes jealous of Ausair is because Ausair really wasn't even focusing on any type of material thing. He elevated his, he elevated his consciousness. He's on a different plane of thinking. And because of him on this elevated way of thinking, beyond himself, and he's thinking about his people, he's devoted his life to helping his people to become better individuals. You can imagine when you see an individual who does this, you can just imagine what happened. The people basically are they're so in love and so enthralled by him that they gave him everything. They was giving him things because, just to show their gratitude, just to show how much they appreciated what he did. So Ausair basically, yes, it was the fame that made him popular, or it was the fame that made Set jealous. But it was the fact that Ausair is becoming prosperous because he's not focusing on becoming prosperous. He's becoming he's becoming famous, and he's getting all this material, this material blessings, this material wealth, because he's not focused on it. He's focused on elevating his folks, elevating his people. And it's because of him not doing that, because of him not being materialistic and elevating himself to be able to deal with these people, to deal with his people, that's what causes Set to be jealous. Because if you look at it from, again, a metaphysical perspective, you understand that Set deals with the material. Ausair is becoming wealthy, becoming prosperous. He's become, he is gaining abundance in everything by just being a spiritual, or let me rephrase that, by living a righteous life. Okay? Now, those of us who know the story, we know that basically later on, when Ausair, after he travels, he comes back and set plots and kills him. He murders Ausair. So it's like, why did he murder Ausair? Well, in order for him to murder Ausair, you have to remember, he held this great party for Ausair, for Ausair's return. And, for the most part, he got him drunk. And for the longest time, I kept thinking, Ausair was intoxicated, or Ausair basically, he was, because of him being intoxicated, that, that's the reason why he lost his life. That's the reason why he was murdered. And for the longest time, I used to think about that. And I used to say, okay, well, that just means that whenever I go somewhere, got to be cautious, don't overdrink, don't overindulge. And that's what I was thinking. And there may be some truth to that, or let me rephrase that. There is some truth to that. But I don't think that's the real truth of the story. The truth of the story, when you think of it as from that perspective of Ausair basically being elevated and and being on this high level of thinking in regards to saving and trying, not saving, but elevating his people. When you think about it from that perspective, that means that really the real reason why Ausair was murdered was because the intoxication is an illusion referring to the fact that he came down to Set's level. And when I thought about that, I was like, that's deep. Okay? And there's a lesson to be learned about that. The only time the evil eye really affects us, and this is like I said, this is coming straight in from the spirit, all right? The only reason why the evil eye will affect us is if we think that our peace, prosperity, happiness, our success comes from the material things. If we stoop down to this level, and this is what Ausair did, when he becomes intoxicated, he's stooping down to Set's level. In other words, he's crossing from that spiritual plane of Kamta, according to the cosmic realm. He's crossing from the Kamta, and he's coming into Taset. Anytime we stoop down to that individual's level, or to that low level, this is when that affects us. And this is when the evil eye affects us. Okay? So to avert the evil eye, all you got to do is basically stay off this level. Stop thinking about your ego. Stop buying into your ego. Every time you buy into your ego, every time you buy into this whole material thing, every time you buy into this whole thing of, it's all about the money, it's all about the cars, it's all about all this stuff, all these things. When you buy into the materialism, when you buy into your ego, that's when the evil eye affects you. Because you're thinking, okay, I might lose this stuff. And that's the lesson in it. The lesson in it is that that's not what Ausair was thinking. Okay? So, what does this have to do with the Eye of Ra? Well, the Eye of Ra, when you look at it from this understanding, the Eye of Ra, which deals with aggressiveness, it's basically, and again, I was looking at this whole thing with the evil eye and the Eye of Ra from a superficial perspective. But when I looked at it from this higher perspective, this higher understanding, what that meant is that the Eye of Ra is basically a reminder to be aggressive against your ego, to be vigilant, to fight, tooth and nail if you possibly can, to overcome your ego. And you overcome your ego by being human, by being humble, by assisting others, trying to elevate others, just as Ausair did. You overcome your ego by going ahead and living that righteous life. Okay? So, like I said, when I thought, again, this is all coming in. I'm geeked. I'm hyped and amped up about this because, like I said, I was thinking at it, looking at it from another perspective, and this gave me a different type of insight about the whole, this whole way of thinking in regards to all of that. Okay, so what does all this mean? What does all this mean? Basically to wrap it up, like I said, it just refers to the fact that, this is what spirituality is. The evil eye is not going to affect you, and it cannot affect you if you're focused on if you're focused on that higher plane of trying to live a righteous life and elevate others, improve the life of others in order for you to overcome your ego. All right. When you do that, when you live that type of life, this is what that Eye of Ra is basically reminding us. It's reminding us, okay? It's reminding us that you didn't come here. We didn't incarnate to this plane to talk about cars. We didn't incarnate to this plane to talk about, to try to better ourselves by getting a good job and all that, And I always have to put this disclaimer out there. This is not to say that, you don't deserve a good job, or you don't deserve to even be wealthy or something. That's not what I'm talking about. Okay. Yeah. We all have that. We all, all deserve those things. And there's nothing wrong with having that, but that's not the reason why you're here. You're here to overcome your ego. And that's what that Eye of Ra is reminding us, that you came here to overcome your ego so that you can, so that your soul can evolve. You can purify and strengthen your soul, and you can move on and become a higher and enlightened being. That's the reason why you're here. All right. And we can't forget that. Okay. So hopefully that helps. All right. I know that's a lot. That's a lot of information or so. I'm hoping, that made a lot of sense to you. Again, I'm making this video for you all, but I'm also making it for myself because, like I said, when spirit comes through, it comes through like that. But anyway, as I said, hopefully that helped you. If you have any questions, got any suggestions or so, feel free to drop me a line. Once again, thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Until next time, Hechapu. Peace. No pretending, maybe I'm sending